All right, we got Jason Priester on the line from allclemson.com on SI, breaking down the Tigers, coming off a 48-20 off the top of my head, I believe, win over Louisiana Tech. So before we move on to Wake, what was the good and the bad from the Louisiana Tech win?
Well, the bad was the first half. The good was the second half. If you're talking about, offense and
Yeah.
especially, but um, got off to a pretty solid start. I think they scored on 3 of the first 4 possessions, go up 13-0, and then nothing the rest of the first half. Just couldn't get anything going. No consistency. The offensive line didn't play well. Came out after halftime though. It seemed like there was a renewed sense of energy. I thought the offensive line took over and dominated starting early in that second half. Kind of what I was expecting to see from the beginning of the game. I don't know. I guess maybe it just took a while to get going, whatever the reason. Probably their best half of football to date from an offensive line perspective. Blake Miller really seems to be starting to grow into that role, the true freshman over at right tackle. Don't get me wrong, they still got some improving to do, but it was good to see them put together that good of a half. Really kind of blew it open. Clemson was missing a ton of guys on defense. 5 starters out. Then you lose Sheridan Jones pretty early in the first quarter. I think he's had a stinger. But you're missing 6 starters, and 3 of them are off the back end. And Clemson had to play those 2 freshman cornerbacks, Toriano Pride and Jaden Lucas, a lot of reps, and they picked on Lucas a little bit, especially late in that game, and it ended up throwing for I think 310 yards, something like that. But got to get that pass defense shored up. I know they played a lot of soft zone coverage through these first 3 games. A lot of that's been by design, trying to get some of these guys up to speed. I expect we see a little bit more, or we see a little tighter coverage going forward as the competition amps up. But, Clemson does not have a lot of experience on the back end outside of Sheridan Jones. Nate Wiggins was the talk of fall camp, how far he's come since last season. He was out. We all saw what Andrew Makuba did last season. He was out. Hopefully he can get back this week. Sounds like most of those guys will be back, but if they're not, could make for a long afternoon in Winston-Salem Saturday.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, because we know the deal with Brian Bresee in regards to his family situation, his sister's health issues, and why he was out. But everybody else, I was kind of curious as to whether we're talking about long-standing injuries or guys that should be able to get back on the field.
Yeah, I expect Bresee to be back. He flew back in to Clemson, or he was. They said yesterday morning, which was Monday, that he was flying back in yesterday. He wanted to come back and practice. He was ready to get back on the football field. So, so it sounds like he's going to be back. The funeral was this morning, so I heard about 35 of the players and coaching staff were going up for that. So he had to fly right back up. But I imagine he'll be back. Tyler Davis looked, really good walking around on the sidelines Saturday. This is a week after he was really noticeably limping, during the Furman game. He wasn't wearing anything on his leg this week. No limp, walking around 5. XT looks really good. I was halfway expecting to see him in this game. I guess they're just playing it safe, but if Clemson can get Davis and Bresee and XT back, it'll only be the 8th time those 3 guys have played in the same game in the last 30 games. That's a mind-blowing number, It just tells you how banged up those guys have been and what Clemson's been without on that defensive line for a lot of the past 2 seasons.